Welcome back. We're talking about some of the issues facing returning war veterans. Sergeant Bryan Anderson is one of the few triple amputees to survive his injuries in Iraq. His book, No Turning Back, is an inspiring testament to courage and perseverance. He joins us from Los Angeles. Bryan, thanks for joining us. You served in Iraq. You suffered some horrific injuries there. Take us through what happened.
Well, it was October 23rd, 2005. And we started headed to our first Iraqi police station that day. And, well, we didn't make it. We just got hit with an IED. All of a sudden, I saw smoke, fire, and a shower of sparks coming through my door. And then the next thing that I saw was pitch black. And it wasn't because I was knocked out or anything. It was just because there was so much smoke inside the truck, you couldn't see anything in front of you. So my first reaction is to be like, hey, are you guys all right? You guys all right? And I didn't hear anything, and that kind of scared me. So I tried looking harder, and I noticed that I started seeing green. What had happened was when the explosion went off, it cut my legs and my left hand off instantly. My legs were laying in the floorboard, my hand was in the passenger seat, and it like spun me sideways to where I was like laying in my seat. And when I looked to my right and asked if everybody was all right, the reason I saw green was because I was technically looking at the back of my seat, which was green. I had to see, I guess, to believe. I didn't know or feel that my legs or my hand was gone. It's weird.
You're a young man in the prime of your life. You suffered horrific injuries, as I say, while you served in Iraq. And, you know, those are the injuries we can see. The injuries we don't see are the emotional injuries, the trauma that you went through, the mental injuries that you go through. Tell us about those challenges in the aftermath of that experience.
Well, that all depends on your character, who you are, how you were raised, how you think. And for me, I'm one of the lucky ones because I was able to compartmentalize war with real life and rehab and all of that. So once I got back home or to Walter Reed, I'm sitting there looking at myself as a triple amputee like, well, crap, now what am I going to do? What can I possibly do from here on out? But at the same time, my whole family was there, and that showed me that, hey, they're going to be there no matter what, so just take a day at a time and see what happens. But PTSD, or whatever you want to call it, it's on an individual basis, in my opinion. What happens is, I think that people do these missions or they see these things, and then when they get downtime or they come back home and they have nothing to do, they sit there and replay that stuff over and over in their head, and then they develop some sort of PTSD or nightmares or whatever the case may be. But when I got home, I was able to just put my mind on what was in front of me, which was rehab and getting back to good so that I can go home.
Right. You talk about coming back, going through rehab, getting better, as you put it. You were at Walter Reed, which is just outside Washington here. The Veterans Administration here in the United States has come under a lot of criticism recently for the poor service that it's been giving veterans like yourself. What was your experience? What kind of help did you get? Medical help, therapeutic help from the Veterans Administration?
Well, again, I was one of the lucky ones. I came out on the cover of Esquire magazine in January of 2007, and a lot of people saw that. So when I would go into the VAs, people recognized me. And so when I would ask for certain things or whatnot, they don't really tell me no. And I don't know if it's because of the exposure that I've had, or if it's the fact that they're afraid that I could, you know, bring a media storm on them if I really wanted to. They did right by me, except for the fact that it would take forever to get certain types of appointments. And sometimes you don't have that much time to wait for an appointment. Like, I heard somebody died because they were waiting for an appointment.
There is a recognition, though, that there are some serious problems in the Veterans Administration.
Yes.
I mean, we've seen that. You've talked about the long waits that veterans have to go through to get that kind of treatment. There's been poor facilities, unhealthy conditions. In some instances, there's been outright lying by managers, who don't want to reflect the true situation of the problems facing the Veterans Administration. It now has a new secretary, Bob McDonnell, who came in about 4 months ago, and he's promising to clean up. Do you have faith in the system? Do you have faith that it will get better?
I do hope for the best, but I kind of expect the worst. So it is what it is. If it gets better, fantastic, and I'm so thankful for that, for everybody that's going to get the treatment that they need.
When you look at what is happening in Iraq right now, do you have any regrets about serving in the military?
No, I don't have any regrets. I cherish everything that I've done in the military, including going over to Iraq and seeing the things that I saw, because it really gave me perspective. It made me appreciate everything that we have here. And it also showed me that we're lucky, and a lot of people don't get to live the way that we get to live. When we went over into Iraq, when we crossed that line from Kuwait into Iraq, there was nothing but women and children lining the streets for like 3 miles, screaming and cheering, so thankful that we were there to do something about their situation, that kind of justified everything. And I had a lot of good experiences. I mean, don't get me wrong, war is scary, and war is brutal, and graphic, and violent, and it sucks. Nobody should have to go through it, but I do cherish the experience that I got.
Bryan, in your book, No Turning Back, you talk about the tough challenges that you faced. I mean, you suffered horrific injuries, as we pointed out. You suffered physically, yet you've been undeterred. You're a person who rock climbs, who goes snowboarding, you water ski. Yeah. What is the message you have to veterans to show that, and to other people who compete against you?
Well, stuff happens. You can't change that. You can only change what you do after the fact. Also, you kept saying horrific incident or
injuries,
whatever. I don't see this as anything horrific or tragic. It's another life experience that I've gone through that has taught me a lot about who I am and what I'm capable of. And it's given me a confidence about myself. So I can't really be upset with that. I am the way that I was meant to be now. I would tell others that when bad things happen, every time the world feels like it's crashing down on your shoulders, usually ends up being the best thing that ever happened to you. Like, I got blown up. I lost my legs and my left hand. But in the last 8 years, I've been able to help so many veterans and soldiers just make it through their experience or their injuries. I've been able to help people, and I love that.
Bryan, very inspiring. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me.